जी बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। जनाब जैन बिस्मिल्लाह। हेलो हेलो।
जी सर।
जी बिस्मिल्लाह जैन। स्टार्ट कौन कर रहा है?
सर जैन नहीं है मेरे ख्याल में।
अभी तो मेरी बात हुई है उससे 1 मिनट पहले यार। अभी तो वो बात कर रहा था कि मेरा नाम दूसरा आ रहा है। अब
सर पार्टिसिपेंट में तो शो नहीं हो रहा।
वो साथ के नाम से आ रहा था, वो अपने नाम से नहीं आ रहा जैन।
नहीं सर, अभी नहीं है सर, मैं पूछता हूँ उसको।
तो दूसरा ग्रुप मौजूद है दानियाल वाला या नहीं?
जी सर मौजूद है।
दानियाल साहब मौजूद हैं?
जी सर।
चलिए फिर मैं आपकी प्रेजेंटेशन लगा देता हूँ।
जी सर लगा दें।
मैं लगा रहा हूँ।
हेलो अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर।
वालेकुम सलाम।
सर
जी बोले।
सर प्रेजेंटेशन पहले किनकी हो रही है सर?
मैं तो देखें,
हमारी
मैं जैन ने कहा था मुझसे, उसके बाद जैन अब रिस्पॉन्ड नहीं कर रहे।
नहीं सर, मैं आपको कहा नाम चेंज करने गया हुआ था सर, तो अभी मैं आया हूँ।
आ गए हैं आप?
जी बिल्कुल सर, मैं आ गया
चलें
हूँ सर।
आप कर लें, आप बिस्मिल्लाह करें, आप, मैं आपकी लगा देता हूँ जनाब। यही है ना आपकी जैन, यही वाली प्रेजेंटेशन है ना?
सर अभी डिस्प्ले नहीं हुई सर, 1 मिनट सर।
एक मैंने कर तो दी है ये शेयर की स्क्रीन के ऊपर।
सर यहाँ पे अभी तक नहीं आई।
1 मिनट ठहरे, मैं
जी जी सर।
आगे नजर नहीं।
नो
नहीं
सर।
सर।
देखिए आई है नहीं आई है नजर आपको? मैं शेयर स्क्रीन तो कर चुका हूँ।
अब आ
अब आई
गई।
है सर, अब आई सर।
जी जी सर अब आ गई।
चलें बिस्मिल्लाह।
सर स्टार्ट ले लें सर?
जी
सर फर्स्ट स्लाइड लगा देना सर, बिस्मिल्लाह वाली।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Almighty Allah, who is the most beneficial and merciful. Good morning. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Hamza Ali sir. Next slide कर दे sir. My name is Hamza Ali and I'm here along with my teammates Maaz Khan, Zainul Abdeen and Azim Moon. And we are here for a presentation on the topic which is climate change effects on our environment. And for this, Mars will present on the causes of climate change. Zan will let you know about the climate change or impacts of climate change on our environment. And in the end, Azim will explain you the remedies that how to overcome our climate. Let's begin with an introduction. Next slide, कर दें, sir.
This one or the next
Our
one?
home. जी sir, next कर.
सर इससे आगे
इससे आगे वाली।
Yes sir. Our planet Earth, which is third planet from the sun and
Next
home
slide,
to 7,000 species of living organisms, including us humans. Earth is the only astronomical object known to harbor life. The surface of Earth is land consisting of continents and islands, which is about 29%, and the remaining 71% is covered with water. Much of Earth's polar region are covered in ice. According to our research, Earth was formed over 4.5 billion years ago. Earth's atmosphere consists of nitrogen and oxygen. Earth's atmosphere does many important tasks for us. It shields us from UV radiation, generates weather, and its ability to keep our planet warm is what makes the atmosphere so important to climate change. So next slide, sir. So next. जी sir. Climate. Average weather of a climate is called average weather of a place is called climate. It includes wind, humidity, air, and other factors. For example, the climate of UAE is hot and humid, but Pakistan lies in the temperature zone. That means weather here is moderate, ठीक है, and which is neither hot nor cold. Climate of a plate takes several years and million years to change. Next slide, कर sir. Environment. Everything in our surrounding is our environment. It includes mountains, rivers, snow, etc. The environment can also be defined as a total sum of all the living and non-living elements and their effects which influence human life. While all the living or biotic elements are animals, plants, forests, fishes, birds, etc., the non-living or abiotic elements includes water, land, rocks, and air, etc. There are some basic things that our environment provides us to spend life on this planet. Those are food, water, and shelter. Sir, next slide, sir. Human and environment. In in return of all these basic living, what do we human give our environment?
अब मैं
We
यहाँ
give our
रोकूंगा
gift
आपको
of
1 मिनट। आपकी तबीयत मुझे
जी
खराब
जी
लग रही
सर।
है, आप अकेले हैं या कोई और भी आपके आसपास है?
नहीं सर, मैं अकेला ही हूँ सर।
हाँ बस फिर ठीक है,
सर अकेला ही।
प्लीज कंटिन्यू।
जी सर। Human and environment. In order, what we give to our environment, sir. Sir, we give gift of pollution, greenhouse gases, greenhouse effects, global warming, and waste of food. This is what we are giving to our environment. And now Mas Khan will continue and elaborate about causes of climate change.
Shall I go to next slide?
Yes, sir. Mas Khan will continue. Maz.
माज मौजूद भी हैं पार्टिसिपेंट में या नहीं? माज खान मौजूद तो हैं?
हेलो।
जी
माज
सर
प्लीज,
मौजूद है।
जी प्लीज कंटिन्यू।
हेलो।
जी आवाज आ रही है आपकी, आप कंटिन्यू करें।
आवाज आ रही है। Assalamu alaikum, this is Maz. I'll be telling you about the causes of climate change. Sir, next slide. Sir, next slide.
ये ह्यूमन एक्टिविटीज आ गई हैं
Humans
ना?
are responsible for the destruction. Yes, sir.
जी
Humans are mainly responsible for the destruction of environment and the planet Earth. The main causes of the destruction of the environment are pollution, global warming, deforestation. Pollution. Pollution is mainly consist of three pollutions: air pollution, water pollution, and the land pollution. Air pollution, which affects the ozone depletion, acid rain, global warming. Water pollution is affecting the marine life, waterborne diseases, coral reefs, and affecting the crops. Land pollution is contaminating the soil, which affects the production of food. Next slide, sir. Greenhouse effect. It is a structure of glass and polythene sheets that is used to provide suitable environments for the plants to grow. There are certain gases that are released by the greenhouse that are called greenhouse gases. The pie chart shows percentages of greenhouse gases in the environment. Carbon dioxide 65%, methane 17%, nitrous oxide 6%, and other gases contributes about 12%. The role of greenhouse gases in the environment: it absorbs radiation and heat coming from the sun and re-emit it in all the directions in the atmosphere, which causes the temperature rising in the earth. Next slide, sir. CO2, carbon dioxide. It is the main responsible reason in increasing the temperature of the world. Why? Because it forms a blanket around the atmosphere and traps the heat inside the earth and does not allow the heat to escape into the space. Here is the percentage that shows CO2 emission by the countries. The China contributes about 23% of whole world, US about 18%, India and Russia about 6%, Japan about 4%, Germany contributes 3%. As
एक
you
मिनट
can
एक
see,
मिनट एक मिनट एक
China
मिनट एक मिनट एक मिनट
contributes.
रुको, माज 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 आई होल्ड यू। आपका पाई चार्ट शो कुछ और कर रहा है, आप नंबर कुछ और बोल रहे हैं। देयर इज अ कंफ्यूजन। अभी आप चाइना 23% कह रहे हैं, पाई चार्ट 28 शो कर रहा है। यूएई को आप 18 कह रहे हैं, ये 15 शो कर रहे हैं। इंडिया आप 6 कह रहे हैं, ये 7 शो कर रहा है। तो व्हाट इज द रीजन फॉर दिस डिफरेंसेस? व्हाट यू आर टेलिंग अस एंड व्हाट यू आर
Sorry,
शोइंग
sir.
अस?
Sorry, sir. वो पुरानी वाली स्लाइड खोल ली थी मैंने
ओके,
अपने सामने. China about 28%, US about 15%, India 7, Russia 5, Japan 3, Germany 2, Iran 2%, and rest of the world about 38%. As we can see, China is the most CO2 emission countries in the world. Why? Because 72% of the industries are in China, and it is the largest manufacturer of the chemical fertilizers, cements, and the steel. In 2013, 38.2 billion tons, 36.4 billion tons of carbon dioxide was emitted in the atmosphere. Next slide, sir. Deforestation. Deforestation is cutting down of trees for the construction of the human homes or habitats for human and buildings, and transforming a forest into a cleared land is called deforestation. According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, an estimated 18 million acres, 7.3 million hectares of a forest are lost each year. The effects of the deforestation on the climates are as follows. It leads to the soil damage, inavailability of food and water, destruction of habitats for the animals, soil erosion, and flooding. Next slide, sir. Population growth. The global population grown from 1 billion to 1800 to 7 billion in 2012. With increase in population, we increase in the production of the food and the resources for the humans. So the pollution of the industries is increasing day by day. Increase in population increases the rate of carbon dioxide, which leads to the devastating climate change. Every day, 350,000 babies are born every day. As we know, in Brazil, the Amazon forest is destructing day by day by the government to provide the resources to the people. They have built a road in center of the Amazon forest to provide the resources to the people, and they are giving the land of the Amazon forest to the people to grow their farms and utilize the resources of the forest. Now I will request Zen to tell about the impacts of the climate change.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Zainul Abidin, and I'm going to discuss with you the impacts of climate change on our environment. Next slide, sir. For 2.5 million years, Earth's climate has fluctuated, cycling from ice ages to warm periods. But in the last century, planet temperature has risen unusually fast, about 1.2 to 1.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Scientists believe that it's human activity that is driving the temperature up by a process known as global warming. Ever since the Industrial Revolution, factories, power plants, and eventually cars has been burning fossil fuels at a huge and immense rate, such as oil, coal, gas, etc., releasing huge amount of carbon dioxide and other toxic gases into the atmosphere. And these gases, what they do is trap the heat near the earth that is coming from the sun, and they cause heating of the planet. Global warming evidence includes a recent string of very warm years. Scientists report that 1998 was the warmest year in the history, with 2005 coming in second. Evidence also show that carbon dioxide and methane had hit its largest levels in the past 420,000 years. We can see that global warming is a debate of many countries, and it is the main concern for all the developed nations that how we can compensate the global warming, how can we overcome this matter, as it is posing a serious threat to our planet. Next slide, sir. Earth's climate is changing, and ice is melting away, thus rising sea level. Sea level rise is highly dependent on our actions, how we influence this planet. Are they negative influences or positive? It will directly affect the ecosystem and biodiversity of our planet. Here is a graph that depicts the rise in sea level from 1998 to 2020. We can we can see here from 1998 to 2016, ocean rose by 8.26 centimeter, and that's a significant rise in sea level. Scientists also say that from 1900 and 2016, population rose from 1.5 billion to 7 billion. Carbon dioxide emissions rose from 2 billion tons to 36 billion tons annually from 1900s to 2016. We are going to observe serious rise in sea level in the coming years. And all the coastal areas or the areas that are established along the coast are going to be affected greatly by the rise in sea level. Let's take the example of Pakistan. Pakistan has 10% of its population living in the vicinity of coastal zones. Over 20% of Pakistan's coastal area is relatively developed, and 40% of our industries are situated near the coast. Let's take the example of Port Qasim and Karachi Port KPT. Rising sea levels is going to drastically affect the economy of few countries such as Bangladesh. We can see we have Pakistan, whose industries are mostly on the coastal areas. Uh, Rising sea level at Karachi is about 1.1 millimeter per year. So there is an increment of 1.1 millimeter every year in the sea level in Karachi. Next slide, sir. Rising sea levels will be one of the greatest challenges we will face in the next century. How high sea rise and how soon, it all depends what happens here, the Antarctica. We can see in the GIF1. Antarctica holds the largest chunk of ice in the world, and its west portion that is shown in the GIF2 alone contains enough ice to raise the sea level by 3 meters. West portion of Antarctica is considered to be one of the most unstable part of the region or the Antarctic region, and that is due to this Thwaites Glacier that is shown in the GIF 2. Thwaites Glacier is as high as 6-story building, has area of almost 192,000 square kilometer. I'll give you a comparison of how huge or humongous this glacier is. The area of Punjab province is 205,000 square kilometer. So we can observe that Thwaites is slightly smaller than the whole province of Punjab. And you can realize how huge and humongous this glacier is. In the past couple of years, scientists have observed, past couple of decades, scientists have observed that Thwaites is falling apart. Next slide, sir. This is the Antarctic ice sheet. It is thick in the center where years and years of snowfall compiles or compacts into ice. And it pushes the ice towards the ocean into forming ice shelf. The ice that floats on the ocean is the ice shelf. There are two regions. Now, when the surrounding air warms up, it heats up the ocean. And now there are two regions, East Antarctica, which is above sea level and considered to be the stable region of the Antarctica. So warm water doesn't affect it much. But on this side, the Western Antarctica is below sea level. So when water warms up, it melts away the ice shelf, but it also goes under beneath the glacier, melting away the immense ice rising sea level. And this is the West Antarctica. Next slide, sir. Here in the animation, we can observe that Thwaites is falling apart. We can observe that a huge chunk of ice got separated from the Thwaites Glacier. The Amundsen Sea, that is a nearby sea, the warm currents from this sea move towards the Thwaites Glacier and they are breaking down the Thwaites Glacier. Here we can observe the West Antarctica, where we can see the west portion in gray alone contains enough ice to raise sea level by 3 meters. Next slide, sir. This is a systematic diagram or a flow chart that represents how Thwaites is melting away. I cannot explain all the terminologies within the diagram, but I will only discuss the essentials or the factors that are playing sole role in melting down of Thwaites Glacier. As we can see, the Amundsen Sea, the warm currents from the Amundsen Sea comes under beneath the glacier, and what they do is they lift up the glacier into to the surface, and it is broken down into pieces, and those pieces move into the warmer sea and rise sea level. Here we can see at the bottom left, we can see a dot or a circle in blue and white is known as grounding zone. It is a point where the whole glacier rests against the ground and prevents it from moving into the sea. Next slide, sir. In these animations, we can observe in the GIF 5, we can see how ice is melting away. The warm current waters break the glacier into smaller pieces, and they are followed by huge pieces of ice, and they move into the warmer sea, melting down. The red spot we can see here is the grounding zone, which prevents the glacier to move into the sea and prevents its breakdown. And the GIF 6, we can observe this cavity. This cavity is as large as 1/3 the size of Manhattan, or we can say the size of Malheur Cantonment. It is slightly larger than Malheur Cantonment, so it's a huge cavity. Scientists fear that if the warm waters are able to breach this cavity, then the collapse of Thwaites Glacier is inevitable. We cannot stop the collapse of Thwaites Glacier. Next slide, sir. Here we can see a contour image of Antarctica. The red, green, and yellow area is above sea level and to be considered as the stable region of Antarctica. But the blue areas are considered to be below sea level and is unstable. The region that is marked is Thwaites Glacier. Just like a keystone in a bridge, a stone that is responsible for the stability of the bridge, just like that, if I'm going to remove that stone, the bridge might collapse. Just like that, Thwaites is a keystone to western part of the Antarctica. It holds the a whole region together, the western region. If Thwaites collapses, it will collapse the entire western region, And in the GIF 18, we can observe that if Thwaites collapses, it turned black, it means it's collapsed. It is going to collapse the whole western region, rising sea level drastically up to 3 meters. And we can imagine how much devastation it is going to cause. There are certain regions that are shown like Miami and Bangladesh, how they are getting affected if this whole western region melts away. Next slide. As a result of global warming or climate change, the storms are going to be severe. They're going to more deadly and they're going to cause more destruction. Storm winds, deadly storm surges, and trail of destruction will become quite often. They will become more frequent. How climate change is affecting the storms?
Then I've lost your voice. Then, are you there?
Yes, sir. Sir, अब आ गया आवाज सर?
अब आइए दोबारा एक्सप्लेन कर दें, जो
सर, अब
बीच
आवाज
में
आ रही?
आपकी 1 मिनट आवाज नहीं आई है। इस स्लाइड को शुरू से कर दें आप। इस स्लाइड को रिपीट कर दें आप, जहां स्टॉर्म्स एंड रेनफॉल की आप बात कर रहे हैं ना, इसको रिपीट कर दें आप। जैन, हेलो हेलो भाई, को जैन का
सॉरी सर,
पार्ट नहीं सुन
मेरा
रहा है?
नेट सर थोड़ा सा फ्लक्चुएट कर। सर सॉरी सर, अब मैं आ गया हूं सर, वो मेरा नेट
हाँ,
थोड़ा सा
ये
फ्लक्चुएट
स्लाइड
कर रहा
दोबारा एक्सप्लेन करें आप।
था। जी सर। As a result of global warming or change in climate or change in the temperature of the world, the storms are going to be more severe, they're going to be more dangerous, and there will be more destruction around the world. Storm winds, deadly storm surges, and trial of destruction will become more frequent. I'll give you an overview how a storm is formed. A warm ocean warms the air that is on top of it and it rises and it creates a cavity beneath it, and the cold wind from the other area comes and fills that cavity, creating a swirling effect, a cyclonic effect, and it forms cloud on top of it. And the clouds have rain and they move towards the land and they cause destruction. So greater the temperature of the oceans, so more severe the storms will be. And 1.2 trillion loss is faced by the world.
देखिए, जैन की 2 स्लाइड्स रह गई हैं। अगर उनका कनेक्शन लूज हो गया है तो बाकी कोई और कंटिन्यू कर ले। उसके बाद एक सेक्शन और है, चौथा पोर्शन है इसके प्रेजेंटेशन का। हेलो हेलो,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
जैन के जो पार्टनर हैं, 2 स्लाइड इनकी जैन की रह गई हैं। अगर उनका कनेक्शन लूज हो गया है तो कंटिन्यू कर लें, क्योंकि मेरे पास भी अब 8 मिनट रह गए हैं। उसके बाद ज़ूम लॉग आउट कर
जी
देगा।
सर, आप मैं कंटिन्यू कर लेता हूँ सर।
हाँ, आप जैन का पोर्शन करेंगे या अगला वाला करेंगे?
नहीं सर, मैं आगे करूँगा हाउ टू ओवरकम द क्लाइमेट चेंज।
ओके, मैं उस पे चला जाता हूँ।
जी।
चलें।
ओके, थैंक यू।
सर सॉरी सर, मैं आगे सर वो गलती से हो गया था सर, माय अपॉलॉजीज।
चलें, मैं आपकी स्लाइड पे वापस जा रहा हूँ, क्योंकि
जी सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच सर।
यहीं पे थे ना हम?
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल सर। So I've explained how global warming or rising temperatures around the world is affecting the storms. Next slide, sir. Change in climate also affects our supply of food and how they are delivered around the world. Due to climate change, extreme heat, floods, and droughts have become frequent and has doubled since 1990. Currently, we are going through COVID pandemic, and we are also on the brink of hunger pandemic that might explode soon. Almost 700 million people in 2019 did not have enough food to survive, and UN has warned that 132 million can be added to the number in 2020. I'll just give you an example how climate is affecting the vegetation or food source of this planet. On 9 March 2020, there was Australian bushfire, and we all are aware of that how much destruction did it cause. 18.6 million hectares of area was burnt. 5,900 buildings were damaged. 34 people died in the accident. 3 billion terrestrial vertebrates were affected. This event not only affected or burnt the green areas but also dragged the species of koala bears to extinction. Climate change is making the food less nutritious. Due to immense carbon dioxide in our planet, the crops like wheat, corn, rice, and soy have reduced nutrition level, has been impacted due to carbon dioxide decreasing their nutrition level. They lost 10% of their zinc, 5% of their iron, and 8% of their protein content. Change in climate is also affecting the oceans. Rising temperatures have forced the sea life to move to a region that is cooler and is adequate for their living. Areas like Bangladesh or countries like Bangladesh, whose economy greatly depend on seafood, is greatly affected by climate change. I'll just add up one more thing that due to climate change, we've observed recent rainfalls in Karachi in 2019 during monsoon. Sindh had 1 millimeter of rainfall. But in 2019 and 2018, that 1 millimeter rise up to 450 and 500 millimeter of rainfall during monsoon. That is a climate change. Thank you very much, sir. Now I would request
अच्छा
Azimun
नहीं मैं अभी
to explain you.
ये एक्चुअली अब ये इसका जूम का टाइम रन आउट हो रहा है मैं वीडियो सेव करके वापस आता हूँ
Sure,
फिर
sir.
हम फोर्थ वाले पे जाएंगे वापस ठीक है
ठीक है सर जी
ओके
सर